I think at the moment it's a real interesting perfect storm for businesses, in particular for procurement, which in turn can create a lot of opportunity for procurement to make a difference. But we're seeing at the moment double-digit inflation. So rather than procurement teams traditionally focused on cost savings, we're very much now looking at cost mitigation, trying to control the costs that are spiralling out of control in many different categories. Equally, we're seeing governments raise interest rates to try and cope with that inflation, which in turn is now increasing the cost of money for businesses. So that's resulting in tightened budgets. So if procurement teams are looking for investment in technology or in supply chain, CapEx investments, they really now need a very, very robust business case for soliciting that money from finance, and with payback much quicker than might normally have been considered. But also we're seeing still a lot of supplier disruption, still in the post-COVID era, of trying to get hold of supply of certain goods and services. That could be also due to political situations, sanctions in Russia. Who knows what's going on maybe in the wider Asian region as well, with different political ties happening. So this can really create some big challenges for procurement as to where they need to source their various goods and services around the world.
All the purchasing department, I think a lot of companies are facing the same issue, but clearly the economical context, we are facing a really, really strong inflation right now. A lack of raw material that are crucial for our operation.
Second thing, a little bit more long term, but equally important, is the importance of ESG. So ESG cannot be overstated in terms of how critical it is for procurement teams to get this right, because this will become a board issue. Cost savings arguably are not a board issue, profit is. ESG definitely will be. Supply chains have a massive impact on that, and therefore the role that procurement teams play in terms of making sure that you've got a compliant and a compliant supply chain and a supply chain that's contributing to your ESG success and performance is really important.
I think we're still seeing a big talent shortage, not just in procurement, right across the board. There are a lot of available jobs out there, but procurement do then need to compete with many other industries, many other professions, to try and attract the best talent to drive the profession forwards.
I do think that the bigger challenges are ones like talent, both retaining your current talent and finding talent in procurement and strategic sourcing based on where we need to take the organizations and the function and the industry. And that talent looks different than it looked 10 years or 20 years ago.
And then finally, of course, technology. So there is just a sea of opportunity there, a really good sea of opportunity. But there is the challenge to get that right. And what do you do with that? And I think that there's kind of a balance that underlies all of these things, which is about focus and balance. What do we do in-house? Because clearly any procurement team is going to have finite resources. What do you do in-house? What do you outsource? Do we go end-to-end with technology, or do we go best of breed? So getting that balance right and making sure you've got the return on investment across those 4 areas is really important.
I think for me, regarding the strategy, first, the key thing is that you have to be aligned with the business. When I was working in consulting companies, and I met a lot of purchasing director or financial director was struggling, and they didn't know how to reach their internal customer, how to ensure their savings. So the first thing for me is to be aligned with the business and to understand what is the place that the business is giving to purchasing. Because if you don't have a strong sponsoring, and if you are not aligned with your direction, you can do whatever project, the best negotiation ever. But if it's not aligned with the business and you don't have a sponsor, you will not be able to go anywhere.
I also think you've got to constantly engage the business. It's no good procurement once a year engaging the business, getting their objectives, going away in their ivory tower for a year and working on those initiatives in isolation. You've got to set up your own internal review panel, your own committee, again, ideally for C-suite, but if not heads of department, to regularly, by which I mean maybe quarterly, get together and just reevaluate what is important to each of those departments at this particular point. And this all leads to a more of an agile approach to a procurement strategy.
Well, how we incorporate ESG in purchasing strategy, and now it becomes more and more important, and it's key for us, especially now that we have an impact positive position in our steering committee. And we have clear objective on the ADO group regarding ESG. So on our side, every department of the organization need to have clear objective in how they will contribute to the objective of the group and then in Spain locally. So on our side, each project that we launch, but it can be services or products, we always look at how can we do business in a better way.
I can think of a few examples of companies I know where there was where the ESG strategy started with procurement. And as procurement was able to show really the TCO value of an ESG strategy, that that energy and that value statement from ESG flowed upwards to the board level. And then from there, it didn't just come back down to procurement, but it spread horizontally out to other areas of the company that not at all procurement related, where ESG became, for example, part of maybe a marketing approach, became part of a public, corporate philanthropic activities. But that the original impetus started with procurement, embracing ESG as a procurement strategy, and then the value from that, which could be again, if done right, absolutely can be quantified and communicated throughout the organization, but most importantly, up to the C-suite, up to the board, who then saw that value and embraced it and frankly magnified it and expanded it to be broader than just procurement.